It was an ordinary South Thursday afternoon in Los Angeles, the kind of day where the sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden glow over the city. Jennifer Garner had just finished a long week of filming and decided to take a break by walking and visiting the local grocery store. The store was tucked away on a quiet corner of the city, and Jennifer often came here to enjoy a peaceful, anonymous shopping experience. Jennifer Garner wore a simple outfit of a t-shirt combined with a windbreaker, jeans and sneakers. When entering the store, Jennifer pushed her cart forward, glancing at the shelves lined with fresh produce, snacks, and household items, and wandered over the neatly arranged items. She picked up a carton of eggs and placed them gently into her cart. Suddenly, something caught her attention. In the front, near the checkout counter, was an elderly woman in a wheelchair. The woman, whose name Jennifer would later learn was Sari. Sari was a woman of 50 years old, with hair tied back in a neat bun and a soft, weathered face that seemed to have stories to tell. She appeared to be having difficulty. Her hands fumbled with a few bags of groceries, and her brow was furrowed in concentration as she tried to organize the items in her lap. Her lips were pursed, and despite her best efforts, she seemed to grow increasingly frustrated. Jennifer noticed that Sari was alone. Jennifer's heart sank as she observed the woman's growing anxiety. It was clear that something wasn't quite right, but Jennifer couldn't pinpoint what. There was a sense of distress in the air, something that made Jennifer pause. Sari had already begun to unload her groceries, carefully placing items on the counter. The woman's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her purse, pulling out a worn wallet that seemed to be just as old as she was. She looked up at the cashier, a hint of embarrassment in her eyes. As the total on the register screen flashed, Jennifer could see the slight tension in Sari's posture as she reached into her purse again, her fingers quickly pulling out crumpled bills, only to find they weren't enough. For a split second, Jennifer felt something inside her stirred. She couldn't just let this go unnoticed. There was something about Sari's quiet dignity and the visible struggle in her movements that made Jennifer's heart ache. She took a step forward, hesitated for just a moment, and then made her decision. Jennifer walked over to Sari, her voice gentle and soothing. "Excuse me, it seems like you might be having a bit of trouble. Is everything okay?" And she asked, her tone full of warmth. Sari looked up, startled for a moment, her eyes filled with a mix of embarrassment and gratitude. "Oh, it's nothing," she replied softly, her voice shaking just a bit. I'm just a little short on cash today, that's all. It's not a big deal." Jennifer's heart softened, her intuition telling her that there was more to the story than just a simple shortage of money. She smiled kindly and said, "I'd be happy to take care of it for you if you don't mind." Sari blinked in surprise, then looked down at her hands. It was clear that she wasn't used to receiving help, especially from a stranger. The old woman replied, "No need. It would be a bother to you. I'll leave some things behind." Jennifer's voice, full of genuine kindness, eased her worries. "It's no trouble at all," Jennifer continued. "I'd be glad to do it. You don't need to have to put anything back." She hesitated for a moment, unsure whether she should accept this offer from someone she didn't even know. With a quiet sigh, Sari slowly nodded, overcome with emotion. Jennifer smiled and turned to the cashier, who was still ringing up the next customer. "I'll pay for everything on this woman's order," Jennifer said, her voice firm yet compassionate. The cashier, who had witnessed the exchange, smiled in approval, nodding in understanding as she quickly rang up her and Sari's items. Jennifer swiped her card and handed over the receipt, but her kindness didn't stop there. Jennifer stood there, smiling warmly after paying for Sari. Her eyes were filled with sincerity, as if she wanted to share some lightness in a world that was sometimes too hasty. Jennifer looked at Seri, sensing her anxiety and hesitation. She knew that sometimes even sincere help could make the recipient feel awkward, especially when it came from a stranger. Jennifer didn't want to create a sense of pressure, but she also wanted Seri to feel comfortable and know that she could share if needed. "What's your name?" Jennifer began, her voice soft but clear. "My name is Seri," the woman replied. "Are you alone? How far is your house?" Jennifer asked sincerely. Seri raised her head, her eyes fixed on Jennifer as if considering whether or not to answer. She was not someone who shared easily, especially with a stranger. But the warmth in Jennifer's eyes made Seri feel a little reassured, a comfort she did not expect. After a moment of silence, Seri let out a soft sigh, her shoulders relaxing slightly as if the worries in her heart were gradually fading away. "Yes, I'm going alone," Seri replied, her voice low and a little sad. "My house is not too far from here, but I usually go alone. No one goes with me." Seri didn't know why she said those words, but part of her felt the need to share. She was used to taking care of everything herself, but sometimes she felt lonely, especially when faced with the difficulties of life. Jennifer nodded, the sympathy in her eyes becoming more evident. "I understand," and she said, her voice gentle, "Let me take you home?" And Seri was surprised by Jennifer's offer. She had never thought a stranger would take her home and would do so willingly. She didn't know how to react, but a part of her felt warm, as if she had been gently comforted. "It doesn't have to be that hard," as Seri said, her voice a little confused. "I can get home by myself." But then something in Jennifer's eyes made her pause. She sensed the sincerity in Jennifer's words and had a strong feeling that if she agreed, she would not only receive help, but also some kind of connection that she had long missed. Jennifer smiled a gentle but determined smile. "No problem," and she said, her eyes shining. "Let me help you." She held out her hand, as if the invitation was not simply a homecoming, but an opportunity for the two of them to share more of their lives. Seri felt a strange warmth in her heart. She nodded gently, no longer hesitating. "Thank you very much," she said. The two of them walked out of the store together, Jennifer helping Seri push the wheelchair. Jennifer walked happily beside Seri, her eyes looking ahead and occasionally glancing at her. After walking a short distance, they passed a small, pretty restaurant on the corner. The warm yellow lights outside caught both of their attention. Jennifer glanced at Seri and couldn't help but smile. "Actually," Jennifer said, "I just thought of something. Would you like something to eat? I'll treat you, and we can rest for a bit." Seri raised her head, her eyes widening in surprise. "You're so kind," as Seri said, her voice almost a whisper. "But you've helped me a lot." Jennifer reassured her with a small smile. "It's okay. This is something I should do. I would be happy if you agreed." Seri hesitated a bit, but in the end, she nodded. Part of her felt strong enough to step out of the strong walls she had built up for so long, and part of her felt grateful to have a kind person like Jennifer by her side. The two of them entered the restaurant, which had small, cute tables and a cozy atmosphere. The warm yellow lights created a pleasant atmosphere. Jennifer wheeled Seri to a quiet corner where they could talk without interruptions. Jennifer pushed Seri to a quiet corner where they could talk without interruption. When they sat down, they ordered 2 servings of food and 2 cups of tea. While waiting for the food to be served, Jennifer gently said, "Let's sit down and relax a bit. Can you tell me about your life?" "I used to be a teacher," Seri began, her voice steady but tinged with nostalgia. "I taught for over 30 years, history and literature. I loved every moment of it. The children, they were my joy. I believed in the power of education and the way it could change lives. I spent my whole career helping kids who came from difficult backgrounds. I watched them grow, go off to college, and start families. It was my work. Jennifer listened intently, her heart moved by Seri's words. She could tell that teaching had been more than just a job for Seri. It had been a calling. That sounds wonderful, Jennifer said softly, her voice full of admiration. Surely those kids find the right path? Seri nodded, her face lighting up as she talked about her students. I saw so many of them go on to do great things. But then everything changed. The older woman paused, her eyes clouding with a shadow of grief. Jennifer gave her a moment, respecting the silence, before gently urging her to continue. What happened? Jennifer asked. Seri took a deep breath and let it out slowly. I was in a car accident about 10 years ago, she said, her voice trembling slightly. The doctors told me I wouldn't walk again. I lost the use of my legs that day. Jennifer's heart sank, and she reached across the table, gently placing her hand on Seri's. I'm so sorry, she said quietly, her voice filled with genuine sympathy. Seri smiled faintly, but there was a sadness in her eyes that Jennifer couldn't ignore. It's been a long road. I had to give up my job. I get a small allowance check every month, but it's barely enough to cover the essentials. My friends have all passed away or moved away. I don't see many people anymore. Jennifer felt a lump in her throat as she listened to Seri's words. The pain of losing everything, the career she loved, the independence she once had, was written all over Seri's face. But despite the hardship, there was no bitterness in her voice, just acceptance and perhaps a small trace of longing for the life she had once known. I can't imagine how hard that must be, Jennifer said softly, but I can see that you still have so much to offer. Your heart, your spirit, it's still so full of love for others. Seri's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, but she quickly blinked them away. Thank you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. But sometimes it's hard to remember that. It's hard to keep believing that I still matter. Jennifer gave Seri a reassuring smile. You matter more than you think, and I believe there are still so many people who would benefit from your wisdom and your kindness. It's never too late to make an impact. Seri looked at Jennifer, a mixture of surprise and gratitude in her eyes. The kindness that Jennifer had shown her, paying for her groceries, offering to spend time with her, was more than just an act of charity. It was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there were still good people in the world, and maybe, just maybe, she could find a way to step back into the light. Jennifer leaned back in her chair, a thoughtful expression crossing her face. She had been moved by Seri's story, but she also knew that one meal and a kind conversation wasn't enough to change the reality of Seri's life. She wanted to do more, much more. Jennifer began, her voice tinged with determination. I know a few people at a charity that helps people who are in situations just like yours. I'll reach out to them. I want to make sure you have everything you need. And if you ever feel like it, I'd love to help you get involved in community programs. There's so much you can offer. Seri stared at Jennifer for a long moment, taking in her words. Without hesitation, she stood up, pulled out her phone, started scrolling through her contacts, and called the charity. When Jennifer returned, Seri gave a small, grateful smile. You are so good. Jennifer, and she whispered, I never thought someone would care about someone like me. Jennifer smiled back, her eyes full of warmth and sincerity. We're all people, Seri, and every person deserves to feel seen, heard, and valued. You've spent your life helping others, and now it's time for others to help you. And so, in that small cafe, amidst the quiet hum of conversation and the clink of coffee cups, a bond was formed between two women from different walks of life. Jennifer had taken the first step toward changing Sari's future, but Sari, in return, reminded Jennifer of the profound impact of simple kindness. The kind of kindness that never seeks recognition, but instead seeks to heal, uplift, and make the world just a little bit brighter. The warmth of the conversation seemed to wrap around both Jennifer and Sari, a soothing balm that eased the weight of the years of hardship. Then the food was brought up, they ate comfortably, and the space became quieter. The two women are both lost in their thoughts. Sari smiled gently, feeling a special connection with Jennifer. A simple but meaningful conversation began. The two not only enjoyed delicious food, but also shared small stories in life. Things that seemed very ordinary, but brought a feeling of warmth and peace. After they finished eating, they paid, and Jennifer continued to take Sari home. As they walked out of the cafe, Sari felt like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. The road ahead still seemed long and uncertain, but for the first time in years, she felt like she wasn't walking it alone. Jennifer's genuine kindness had reignited something in her, a spark of hope she hadn't realized was still there. The possibility of a new beginning, a life where she could once again contribute and feel valued, seemed within reach. As they reached a small house, Sari turned to Jennifer with a sincere smile. "Here we are. I don't know how to thank you," Sari said, her voice full of emotion. "You don't have to thank me. Just promise me to live well. That's enough of a thank you for me." Sari nodded softly. "I promise." The two women hugged and said goodbye, a moment of pure connection that neither would forget. As Jennifer watched Sari disappear into the building, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness can have the biggest impact, and she realized that was the greatest gift of all. The evening passed gently, and Sari no longer felt alone in this world. She realized that sometimes chance encounters can change a person's life, making them feel loved and appreciated more than ever. Jennifer, with her kindness and sincerity, brought Sari a little light in the darkness, a belief in the good things in life. Through the way, Jennifer quietly observes, feels, and then proactively helps Sari, we see that kindness is not always ostentatious, but an act of true compassion. The conversation between the two is not just about sharing, but also about deep empathy and feeling heard and appreciated. The story reminds us that kindness can start from very small things, like a greeting, a helping gesture, or simply a sincere presence. Actions like these can not only change someone's day, but sometimes they can change their whole life. The story makes us realize that in a busy world, where people easily ignore the difficulties of others, kindness is not only a virtue, but also the most precious gift we can give to each other. And it is moments like these, though simple, that are the perfect pieces that create the beauty of life. Have you ever asked yourself if you listen and share with someone around you? In this busy life, perhaps, sometimes we accidentally pass by people who need help without even realizing it. If you meet such a person, stop for a moment, take the time to listen to their story and help, even if it is just a little bit. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you like it. Follow us for more exciting videos.